Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Gerard Mitchell, and I'm the chairperson of the Prince Edward Island Electoral Boundaries Commission, which is established under the Electoral Boundaries Act. I'd like to introduce the other members of the commission who are here tonight. You probably all know Elmer McDonald here, and on my left is Kerry Carpenter. Now, it's a five-person commission. We're missing two tonight. One is Lynn Murray. Her dad passed away just recently and was buried yesterday. So she's not able to be with us. And the other member is Libby Shaw. And she had another commitment. We're trying to make up for storm dates, as you know. And Libby had something else on before we set this date, but the commission has all along decided that it would sit as long as there were three of the five available. In any event, everything is being recorded, and anybody on the commission who's not here can access the recordings if they want. I'm going to just make a few remarks, and then I'll turn it over to you people to make presentations, ask questions, or make submissions to us, or let us know your views about the issue. The function of the Commission is to review the 27 electoral districts of the province and make a report to the Legislative Assembly setting out our recommendations for changes as to the area boundaries and names of the electoral districts. In determining the areas and boundaries, the Commission is required by the Electoral Boundaries Act to take into consideration the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, in particular Section 3, which contains the right to vote. We have to look at the data from the Register of Electors, the polling divisions from the most recent general election, geographical features, information pertaining to population, community of interest, municipal boundaries, public input from meetings like this, and any guidance or criteria proposed for consideration by resolution of the Legislative Assembly. At the moment, there are no such resolutions. And in addition, the Commission is allowed to look at any other factors it considers relevant. As part of this whole process, the Commission is required to hold public meetings, such as this one, throughout the province. We've scheduled, I think, 14 so far, and we're about halfway through. We had some problems with storms and one thing, and illness and one thing or another, but we're getting there. The Commission is to make its report within 6 months of its establishment, so sometime in the middle to latter part of May, we hope to be doing that. I want to stress here that there's one difference with this commission from previous commission, and that is that this time the Legislative Assembly is bound to accept our report, our recommendations. That wasn't the case the last time. It's also important to remember that the boundaries that we're setting are intended to last for a 3-election cycle, so about 10 years or so. So we have to take into account population trends as well as the present numbers. The Commission has no authority to add to or subtract from the number of districts. We are only concerned with the boundaries of the 27 districts. We have no mandate to go beyond that. As you may see that at the back of the room, the Commission has brought 3 maps. One shows the present boundaries, and the other 2 are examples of what the 27 districts could possibly look like, given that changes are likely to be necessary. Now, the 2 sample maps that are there are just intended to engage discussion at these public meetings. Neither of these sample maps is adopted or even proposed as the one by this Commission. A final map may well and probably will look quite different from either of those maps. The colored districts on the two sample maps are the possible new district. The heavy black outline is an overlay of the existing district, so that you can more easily see how the districts were adjusted in these two samples. Presently, there are about 100,000 registered voters in the province, and if we were to make all districts equal, each would be about 3,700. The average number of voters is important because the discretion of the Commission is somewhat constrained by both the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and by the Electoral Boundaries Act itself. The Charter, which is part of the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, requires that any deviations from the average must be justified on the ground that such deviation contributes to the better government of the population as a whole, taking into account regional issues within the population. And the Electoral Boundaries Act, on the other hand, it provides that no district can be above or below the average by more than 25%. Now, at present, there are 3 districts that are more than 25% above or below the average. 5 more are 20%, 4 more are 15%, and 1 more is 10%, is over 10%. So that means that we have about 13 districts that could easily be considered as too large or too small. Keep in mind that the Supreme Court of Canada, in interpreting Section 3 of the Charter, which contains the right to vote, has decided that the only variances allowable in the context of electoral boundaries are those that can be justified in the name of more effective representation for the population as a whole. Voter parity is of prime importance, but then the Supreme Court goes on to acknowledge that it is not the only factor to be taken into account. Effective representation is the overall goal, and it often cannot be achieved without taking into account countervailing factors such as geography, municipal boundaries, population growth or decline, community history, community interest, group identity, minority and language and cultural representation. Numbers are important in establishing electoral boundaries, but establishing electoral boundaries is not simply a matter of mathematics. At the end of the day, the goal is effective representation, and that may well mean that there are factors that justify departure from absolute or strict parity. Now, I'll turn the meeting or hearing over to you, the members of the public, to make your presentations or ask questions or make observations or whatever you'd like to do. But as I said earlier, these proceedings are being recorded, so when you take the mic, please state your name first, just for the record. And we'll be pleased to hear what you have to say. Any questions you have?
So dealing specifically with the district here in Crapaud, does any one of you have ever heard any criticism about the district size the way that it is, or any other suggestions that you might have for an altering of the district itself? Have you ever heard anything from the? We don't have any sitting members here tonight, of course. I'm just wondering if you have ever heard of anything. I'm sure it must be discussed someplace. Sorry.
Paul wants to be closer to your mic.
Sorry, Paul. So nobody's hearing any areas of concern Because as the chair has mentioned, the maps that we have up on the wall are just that. They're sample maps. As the chair has indicated, in all likelihood, the new maps will not likely be the same as any one of those, but there certainly could be given districts that's on those maps that could be the same as one of those. So it's just nice to hear if indeed the electorate are hearing any rumblings out there that the district is either too big or too small, or it's not being well served, or there's a concern. We even had concern in one area of the province where there is a long distance phone call that has to be made by some residents in the district because of the location of their MLA, which is certainly something we would have to address, because that is probably not fair in this day and age. Just wondering what your opinion was.
My name is Kenneth Monaghan from South Melville. On the third map there, the final one, are you excluding crop in Victoria or putting it over in District 19?
We're, yeah, wait, we'll get it up here. District 19,
Yes. It looks as if crop in Victoria would be
in this,
in District 19.
We moved out of 17 into 19.
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Well, I would be opposed to that because the county line is just up here.
Yes.
Okay.
And it
keeps
things a lot more straighter.
Runs on a straight line, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So Victoria, in your view, should be in 17?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that county line literally runs down the road, but it also used to run right through the middle of South Shore Villa and then
Exactly.
on down,
Right.
That's
on
right.
down to Victoria.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other observations while you're there?
Over the years, I worked with Elections Canada and Elections PEI, and the polling maps and the civic addresses, they don't always correspond.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're probably not into that, but people don't like to be jolted around. If they see their polling station across the road, that's where they'd like to vote. But the civic address doesn't always tell them that. So I would think Crop and Victoria would be upset having to move to another district.
Okay. No.
What do you think, Catherine?
That's the kind of thing we want to know.
Victoria's not all in one district.
No, the biggest part is
Yeah.
in 17.
Okay.
If I could clarify, what did you mean exactly with regards to the civic addresses and the polling station, please, so I can understand?
Well, when this thing is finalized, Charlottetown will draw up maps
Yes,
of the polls.
yes,
But very often, whoever does the map, somebody else will come behind them and do the civic addresses.
all right,
And it doesn't match. I'll give you an example, would be the South Melville poll.
yes,
You know where the McDonald Road is, Elmer?
yes, very much so, yes,
Well, almost directly across from that is the McCanna Road.
yes,
So, but on the civic addresses, they have down to the Fair Road, the people on that side of the road.
the Farrer Road,
Yeah,
which is down a lot further.
A lot further.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah,
so in my case, I don't mind it, but I have to go to Emmyvale to vote, whereas that means another 10 or 12 miles, maybe 15 miles to drive to Emmyvale, whereas I could be voting down in Disabled.
yes, yeah,
So,
no, thank you.
but other people are calling, because I know from Elections Canada, they call about this, and they are upset. And then the government, on the other hand, is spending money to get the people to vote. but people are,
People get upset
Get
with
upset.
things like that, they won't vote.
That's
and
right.
Get voter apathy.
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. Good point.
No,
Good evening. My name is Randy Shaw. I reside in Disable. I want to, Kenneth, a very good point. My only thing, Kenneth, and I know you folks don't work for Elections PEI, but just viewing from the last plebiscite poll, how they had the option to vote in any district or any polling station. I mean, that would be an Elections PEI
Yeah.
state where they, maybe the next election we're going to be able to vote online. We're going to be able to vote, if I live in Disable, I'm able to vote on my way home from town. Like, I think that's up to Elections PEI, but I'm sure.
I think that's the way to go of the future.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it certainly for the plebiscite results, you folks know that it wasn't the highest turnout, but I think personally it was a good idea that people could vote wherever and whenever and however. And I'm sure, Kenneth, we can look into that further, but just while I'm here as well, I certainly commend you for your hard work, and I know it's certainly a dedication to travel the island and review this with the communities. Now, I noticed on your map, you lay out the community, like the actual communities like Crapaud and Victoria and South Melville and Westmoreland. When you have a full, understanding of what you want to recommend to Cabinet, will there be a period where the full map will be released for review, and then?
That's not something that the commission has determined yet.
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Excuse me. Anything further? We're looking for help, so don't be don't be shy. We haven't had any large crowds at any of these meetings, so this crowd is not that much different size-wise from any of the others. But at every meeting we've had, we've learned something of value to us. So, and I think we did already here tonight. So, if you're thinking something, let us know, because I'm sure it'll help us.
Well, this is a much better format, this here, because the last time, a couple of times it was done in a rush, and nobody wins with that. So this is good.
Well, yeah, we're trying to take our time and give people a chance to be heard anyway, and there's more than one way they can address us, either at the meetings, or people can send in written submissions too if they want. We have received some. Yeah, sure.
Please take it, Mike.
Yeah.
For the people that aren't here, I'm just wondering, I know it's a very large island and it's a small committee. I know Elmer lives in the area, and I'm not sure where you folks are from, and that's none of my business, but I'm just wondering, it's easy to put it on paper when you look at once you crunch the numbers. All right, we can outline it this way, and all the districts will come together at an even amount. But have you actually, or has anybody from government or your folks actually went and looked to see how this would affect, Lowell's on my side of the road and I'm on the other? Like, is it going to still be the same, whereas my neighbor's in 18 and I'm in 17? Like, do you know?
Well, some of that is inevitable. As long as you have boundaries, there's going to be somebody on
Exactly.
on one side or the other. But one of the things that we're looking at is trying to keep neighborhoods, communities together as much as possible. And
Exactly.
like, that's why it was a good thing for gentlemen to bring up about Victoria, that it should be in 17, for example. We wouldn't know that unless someone told us that kind of thing. The other kind of thing that's a factor, of course, is there's quite a bleeding of people from the east and the west into the central part of the province. So we've got to take that kind of thing into account in establishing the size of the various districts too.
And
Where the areas of growth are and where
exactly.
the areas of decline are.
speaking on Kenneth's point where he thinks Victoria should be included in 17, to me it does make a little bit more sense. You know, just looking at the physical appearance, Victoria's just down the street. Right now we're still in District 17, but to my understanding with the proposed realignment, 19 was right down into Crapaud and loops around, but it includes Westmoreland, I believe.
Yep.
So where's the cutoff? Does it cut off at the bridge down here in Crapaud, or?
There's the mapper. He should be able to put the spot in the right place.
The Shore Road,
Sure,
you come across the Causeway Road and come up the Shore Road to Route 1,
right.
that's where it comes across there.
So you're right in Hampton then, okay.
Yeah, and then up to Halls Lane,
Okay.
and then I think it follows
It's on Road.
Route 13 to McDonald Road.
I have to caution you again, Mr. Shaw, that you said, you referred to this as a proposal. We really say it's not, we're not really
Oh,
proposing it.
these are what your recommendations are, yeah.
No, these are just samples of what it could be.
Okay.
It's not likely to be the actual map in the end.
Gotcha. Oh, all right, thank you very much.
Just to follow up on that, the previous time this was done, under Justice McQuaid was the chair, and they had got out without any maps at that time.
Okay.
And he advised us this time to take something that the people could see to use as a discussion point rather than come into a meeting with nothing there except the fact that this is the current map that we have now. What do you got suggestions for? Because nobody wanted to work out. So we sat down and we put a couple of maps together, as the chair has said, for no other reason than for people to take a look at and make suggestions that Mo has just made with regards to Victoria. There was no intent necessarily. The other thing that we ran into is that on some of the division lines where an individual road is used, and it has been brought to our attention also that if the individual road is used and you got one side, shall we say, having a representative A, and on the other side of the road is representative B, then all of a sudden there's an argument, is the representative A have to pay for the paving, or does representative B have to pay for the paving?
Yeah.
They don't like that either, so there's a fine line here in finding the appropriate way to put in a dividing line if it's not clear.
Okay. Yeah, no, certainly the actual image helps a lot, and
Yeah.
like I said, I certainly appreciate your folks' time.
Oh, no.
And
It's you people's time. You're the person that we're trying to get the information from. There's nothing magical about what we do. We just try to return something that ultimately has been a result of the suggestions and the dialogue that's taking place between us and the electorate. And you happen to be the electorate.
with that, I'll let somebody else speak.
Thanks,
sit back.
Randy.
Thank you. Anything further? Going once, twice.
When do you have your final report?
Well, our commission was fully manned and womaned on December the 6th, so that gave us really till June the 6th to take the 6 months from there. But we're hoping to be done before the 6 months, so sometime next month, I hope. We're working.
There was a few things that were in a situation that we hadn't totally planned for. Certainly one was the weather patterns that we ended up experiencing, and probably more importantly, the numbers of people that were interested in the issue of the school closures and the immense meetings that were turning out for those, and those were very passionate meetings, so there was no way we could compete with that. We know that people are interested in this, we just haven't seen great areas of passion yet. But anyway, I'm sure it'll show through at some point in time.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for your submissions. We certainly will note them, and if you have something further that comes to mind that you want to add, please write us or contact us. We're on Facebook, we've got a website, and you can catch us that way, if not at another meeting. And I think this is about our 7th or 8th meeting, so we've still got 7 or 8 to go. Anyway, thank you for coming and expressing your views.